I am Momita, and first of all, I would like to thank each one of you for showing so much of love and support as well as encouragement to the podcast series Rendezvous, the story of power, passion, and purpose. Today, I have with me Maya, who is an ontological coach. But this is not where she started. Her career began as a chef with the Taj Group of Hotels. When she was posted to Sri Lanka for a few months in the early 90s during the Civil War, she found herself confined to a hotel room for the most part of her stay. Here is when she started to ask herself the questions: who am I? What matters to me? When she got back to India, she found herself a teacher under whose tutelage she traveled the entire land to find the answers to her questions. Today, she works with amazing leaders and entrepreneurs to discover their true self and nurture their innate essence to flourish. Who else but Maya as a speaker on the three P's: power, passion, and purpose?
Hi Maya, how are you?
I'm good, Momita, and thanks so much for allowing me to be on this podcast. It
Thank
actually
you.
provoked me to go back and think what does power, passion, and purpose really mean. So thank you so much.
Awesome, awesome. And I think thanks Maya for giving me the opportunity. So since you have already used the three P's, let's start with my first question to you. What do these three P's mean to you?
So your three P's actually resonate with three other words with me, which is whole, complete, and perfect. Because without power, I cannot have passion, and then I cannot have a purpose. So I would actually take it in the order that you suggested: power, passion, and then purpose. And let me share with you where I'm coming from is that without power, I really cannot have passion, and without passion, I cannot really have a purpose. And that brings me back to something I read, sometime last year when I was creating a course for myself. And there was this question by Steve Jobs to Alan Scully, who was, I think, one of the first CEOs at the very early stages of Apple. And he asked him this question is, would you sell sugar water for the rest of your life? Or would you join me and change the world? And that really struck. Where did Steve Jobs get that power to ask him that question? And that brought into the next thing. What was Steve Jobs' passion? So it was about unlocking the genius in Apple's customers. And that went on to become his purpose. So they kind of all three came into alignment. And so when you ask me that question, I mean, that's what really came up for me.
Yeah. Thanks, Maya. Thanks. And thanks for sharing this powerful question, and I think questions itself bring in power. But if I ask you, how would you define power, or how would you define passion? How would you define purpose?
So if I have to come to the word power, for example, when I met my teacher, and this is way back about 25 years ago, he shared with me a quote, which is from the book Wheel of Time, written by Carlos Castaneda. And the thing was something like, power rests on the kind of knowledge one holds. What is the sense of knowing things that are useless? They will not prepare us for our unavoidable encounter with the unknown. And that actually got me to kind of sign up with him and be a student of him and understand what is this knowledge that gives you the power. And to simplify the process, as I was journeying along, I came up with this thing about, our feelings. Now, there's something which I heard my grandmom say when I was a kid, and probably all of us kids, is don't laugh too much, you will cry. And I never understood it at that time, but there's actually a science behind it, which says that our mood swings actually follow a natural law. And like the pendulum, I could be feeling very fulfilled and inspired, but it's just a function of time when I'll go back all the way to fear. and despair and depressed and all of that without having to do anything. And if I don't do anything, I could also move from fear, despair, right up to feeling fulfilled and inspired. And when I got to know about this piece of knowledge, I felt liberated. I felt really powerful because I said, okay, so this is what adepts and masters have been using in order to manage their state of mind. And this is where their power comes from. So now this became, okay, this is where power really rests for me. So I better start finding out what is that knowledge that would allow me to remain in the state of power. That's where my passion came from, is to constantly look for all the different tools, techniques, etc., that would allow me to be in this power state. So what is that knowledge? And that really became my journey for the next 25 years. And that then led me to my purpose, is that, okay, now I have this knowledge. My purpose is, how do I, Steve Jobs says, change the world? How can I use this knowledge then to change the world in my own little way? And that is, how do I have people connect with their innate essence to be able to flourish? So it comes back to the power, the passion, and the purpose. So that's how it kind of translates into, my life, what it means for me.
Love the way you brought in the connection of the 3 Ps and the way it has, come into your life. I will definitely remember your grandmom for this. And it's so simple, right? Don't laugh so much.
Right.
We don't think on those lines. I think this statement remains with me. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Maya. So you started, of course, that you agree with the order, the power, passion, and purpose. And for you in your life, you see that unfolding in that way. How do you see it? How do you see it for people who are not very aware with these terms or not very aware? How do you see these 3 Ps unleashing for them?
So that was a very interesting question, and as I was exploring it, I remember sitting through some webinar, I think about 2 years ago, where this person spoke about state and stack, story, and then strategy. So he says most of the time we jump into strategy without really having our state and stack. And by state and stack, I mean state of mind and my stack of feelings. He says, unless our state of mind and stack of feelings is in a very powerful state, I will not have a very powerful story. And then my strategy will not be very powerful. And that really set me thinking. And that's something which I always share with my clients, that don't go into strategy first, but always go into your state and stack, because that's where your power comes from. When you have that power, let your power then lead you to your passion, which then becomes your story as to why you're in it. And then that passion leads you to the strategy or the purpose, which says, why are you in it? What is it for the larger good of all on the planet? And so that's really how I translate the 3 Ps into the 3 S's that kind of lead into the 3 Ps.
Yeah, I think that's a very different way to look at in terms of, and I guess that's the need of the art, to understand the why. I think somewhere where you say the state and stack, it's actually saying, why am I here, or what do I want to do? And if I have answers to that, then perhaps I have a way forward. So I guess the S, the 3S does make a sense here. In some of my sessions, Maya, I come across people who are yet to discover their purpose, and they say, okay, I know I'm passionate about XYZ, and yes, I feel powerful when I do that, but I'm not sure on my purpose. And now with so many years of experience and with varied experience that you have, Maya, what would you suggest to that person who is still looking for his or her purpose?
That's an interesting question, because that is something which I just started working, during the lockdown with a lot of clients. So a very simple way to kind of do it is to first understand what are my values, what are my strengths, and what is it that I'm really good at? So my strengths, so for example, what could be my values is I love to be integral, authentic. I love, so those are some of the values that I have. What are my strengths? So my strength is I love going into the inner world and getting people to even go in there and extract whatever's possible. So that's really my strength. And what are some of the skills that I have? So I've been a chef, and I try to bring in that chef's thing into coaching, because you have to have the right ingredients put in at the right time in the right quantity. So that is something which is a skill that I've developed. I also learned how to train people while I was at the Taj. So that's a skill which I've developed. Now, when I bring these three together and I look at what are the key words that punch in over here. So the key word is I like to dive deep. I love to be integral, authentic. And my skill is how do I blend in? So then what really became my purpose in a very simplified way is to inspire people to attract, get connected with their purpose or their potential. So when I brought the two, so I used a power verb like inspire. And then I used the words that I'm really good at that came in from my values, skills, and my strength. And then I put that together, and putting it together became, I love to inspire people to unlock their potential.
Wow. This sounds like a lovely recipe. Sorry to interrupt that. It's all put in place and lovely, and you've put a name to it also, So I think that's a very simple way you've put. I'm sure there's a journey with it, because to be aware what you want and which right ingredient at what time, I think that makes that secret recipe very powerful. So what would you want to leave for our listeners today who have been listening to Maya today? What would be your message for them?
I think where I would really start and where I find a lot of my strength is actually in the stack and state. So, focus on the qualities that you would like to have and the person you would want to be known for. So, like, for example, if I'm talking about my stack and state, I love to be known as a person who's bold and a person who's very integral and authentic. And yes, it did go through a lot of churn, because when I started out, and there are a lot of people who say you have to have a large following, you have to have this. And somewhere along the line, I lost my stack and state. But I knew that, and I felt that state before, where I could just sign up a client and I just had to speak and they would sign up. And then I realized at some point I had become somebody completely different. Trying to be somebody else, and it became almost impossible for me to sign them up, because I was trying to be somebody else and they couldn't connect with me. So I was just trying to prove. But then I went back to the scoreboard and I figured out, okay, so I've actually come out with a feelings chart, something like the pendulum. So I keep checking with myself, where am I on the scale? Am I at the level of fear, or am I feeling, fulfilled, inspired? And I first bring myself back, my state and stack back first, then create my story, and then I look for a strategy that would so for example, I would say, there is something called the liminal space that I've been in the state, you have one identity and trying to shift into something else. And I was in that state until, at one point got the message saying that, you need to let go whatever you've learned, because what got you here won't get you there. So that's a very key ingredient for all of us if we're trying to connect with a purpose, because we can't come with our past and carry it into the future. So just before your call, I was, talking to a homeopathic doctor who's also a participant of mine. And I said, for the first time, because my state and stack were right, and I knew the story is about helping people with their innate potential to flourish. And then I started to ask her the question, what is the challenge that your community faces, doctors in your space? And she says, yeah, they're doing a lot of courses. I said, but they'd be, they really don't need to do courses if they understood what was their stack and they worked on it, and they could attract the clients that they want, because then they'll position themselves right. So something that I would love to leave for our listeners is first focus on, the feeling, the kind of person that you want people to know you for, your feelings. And once you connect with that, that will just lead you to everything else, to the purpose. And also the purpose is really who you want to be.
Yeah.
And from that being, the purpose unfolds.
Yeah. Thank you, Maya. And I think very a genuine message to be in touch with ourselves, right? And that's what, and especially who we are, the genuine or the authentic self. I think this is a powerful message that our listeners will love it. Thank you, Maya. Thanks for your time, and thanks for sharing the 3 S's now. We started the story with 3 P's, and I'll embed the 3 S's in the 3 P's journey. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Mamita, for this opportunity.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So that was Maya, where she connected the 3 P's to being whole, complete, and perfect. And what I am left with is state of mind, stack of feelings, creates a powerful story and strategy. So keep listening, keep encouraging the podcast series Rendezvous, the story of power, passion, and purpose. Thank you for listening today.